Okay, so a message to everybody who is, not 18. You're not as hot as you think you are.
I'm gonna open this video by saying 3 things to y'all. I did not think I was gonna record a video on this topic today. I did not think I was going to record a video on this topic today. And let me tell you, I did not think I was going to be recording a video on this topic today.
Okay, so a message to everybody who is, not 18. You're not as hot as you think you are. You're actually fucking unbearable, okay? Your vaginas are, not special. They're not interesting. And the things you offer is basically nothing because you're jobless. You know very little about the world. And 30-year-olds are far more attractive than you are or have ever been. So stop thinking that, oh, I have candy fucking tits. Everybody wants to fuck me.
You think you know where this conversation is headed next. You think you know. If you haven't seen this clip before, genuinely, I think you have no idea at the turn in the road this conversation is about to take.
A fucking 25-year-old is 1,000 times more attractive because you know whether or not they're all fucked up in the head or not because you look at the last 7 years of their life and where they've come.
I get that and I agree.
Why do 17-years, 18, 19-year-olds think that they're hot shit? They're not.
I get that.
It's the dumbest shit ever.
And
they're like, everybody wants to fuck me.
The question though is if you groomed anyone.
No.
How long?
I mean, here's the thing. When I'm nice to you,
yeah,
and then if I fuck you, you could say that's grooming, but we're both adults.
Yeah. How long did it take you to figure out 17 and 18-year-old pussy wasn't shit? Because you went through a lot of them, right?
Oh. And Billy the Fridge gets no credit for this. People act like Billy the Fridge didn't stand up to Onision. Wow. Okay. This is my second time seeing it, so you guys didn't get to see my reaction the first time I heard that. Wow.
How long did it take you to figure out 17 and 18-year-old pussy wasn't shit? Because you went through a lot of them, right? 17 and 18-year-old pussies before you stopped?
The person I'm married to, we got together when they were 17.
Okay.
Yeah. And now they're 25. There have been 2 people, okay? The person I'm with now, who is 25 and was 17 and a half when I met them. And then the other person was 17 and a half when I was 25.
But we're going into the 18-year-old.
My point is that when I first met them, I thought they were older.
Yeah.
But they weren't, and yet they're legal. And when you're already falling for someone and you find out their age late, but they're legal, are you gonna let taboo stop you from having a relationship that you think is with the one? I mean, look at me. I've been married to this person.
The problem here, in case you hadn't guessed, is that Onision is thinking about this in a purely self-centered way. He is giving absolutely no thought whatsoever to the woman in the equation. And yes, when there's money and fame involved, things get a little bit more difficult. Had this controversy lately with Titanic Sinclair and the creative artist Poppy, singer-dancer named Poppy. Okay. When they got together, Poppy was 19 years old. Okay, and he was an older man with some power and experience in terms of who he was in the industry. He'd already had one successful act. Titanic Sinclair, the older dude, he didn't have to sleep with Poppy. They could have had a purely professional colleague-to-colleague relationship. Titanic Sinclair could have had the relationship of management to artist. He could have had the relationship of songwriter to vocalist. That's not what he chose. He chose to sleep with this girl. He chose to have a romantic relationship. He chose to get into bed with her. And look, guys, even Wu-Tang broke up. Even the Beatles broke up. Even EPMD broke up. Even DMX broke up, and DMX is just one man, okay? Like, it's not hard to guess how the story ends when you're the songwriter and management kind of figure and you're actually sleeping with the talent. You chose not to have a professional relationship. You chose to get into bed with this 19-year-old girl. And then, hey, it's amazing it lasted as long as it did. 5 years later, they break up. He's suicidal. The band breaks up. The music falls apart. Completely predictable. Okay. But Titanic Sinclair, as the older dude with the money and the fame, he had a choice. And he was saying to this 19-year-old girl, in effect, hey, do you want to be the next Britney Spears? Probably a lot of guys in Los Angeles say that to 19-year-old girls every day. Titanic Sinclair was actually able to promise that, and he was actually able to deliver it, and Poppy did become a multi-million selling, mainstream hit artist. He actually delivered that. There are probably a lot of guys who make those promises and never deliver. Okay? He had a choice. He has to accept the consequences of the decision he made. And yeah, it's fucked up his life and he's attempted suicide. Okay? What about her? What was the choice she had? When she was 19 years old in that situation, and she did want to be a performing artist, she did want to be a singer and dancer. Okay? Do you think she had the power or the choice to say to him, no, I want you to just be my songwriter. I want you to just be my talent agent. I want you to just be management. I want us to have a purely professional relationship. Do you think she could have said that to him at 19? Do you think she could have said that to him at 20? Or do you think she could have said that to him at 21? I think on some level, we all know that the reality is she did not have that option. She did not have that choice. Either she was going to get into bed with him and take all the advantages and disadvantages of that, and she tried to ride it to fame, or she was going to refuse to get into bed with him, and then one way or another, she was going to have to find her own way in the business, in her career. And so, maybe that would have been the more resolute, independent, maybe that would have been the better choice for her. Maybe now she looks back 5 years later and she thinks when she was 19, she wished she had the confidence to do it without this guy. I don't know. I don't know her perspective. Or maybe she looks back and thinks, well, that was okay when I was 19. Maybe she looks back happily and thinks, okay, that was okay for when I was 19, but now 5 years later I'm 24 and forget it. I'm ready for something better. It's possible she has a more positive view of that, okay? In Onision's whole way of unrolling the map on the table here and explaining strategically the situation, he's looking at it in a sick and insidiously self-centered way, right? And there is fame and there is money involved here. I don't want to recap all the facts, but if you think there isn't money involved, just look back at the facts about Billy, how much money he put in that girl's pocket to have her come and hang out as his live-in babysitter and sleep with both him and his wife Lainey, who's now his husband Kai. These problems can happen with a 21-year-old or a 31-year-old. I told an anecdote the other day about a woman who was a university professor, and she was saying she wanted to get with this guy who was one of her students. He was a university student, but he was over 21. And it's like, she's kind of making up excuses. She's kind of thinking or saying like, oh, well, he's over 21. He could have been somebody I met in a nightclub, but he's not. He's your student. You grade his papers. You grade his exams. You signed a contract. You took on a moral duty. There are, hypothetically, on the level of fantasy, you can think of some other scenario other than this one that has very clear moral consequences for you if you cross this line. If you cross this line that you agreed to never cross in your contract when you accepted this job, when you accepted this responsibility. I honestly think that these problems, they're not so dramatically different when you're talking about people who are 30 years old. Because, man, it's the human heart. And you can meet some 30-year-olds who are more immature than some 19-year-olds. But let's just keep it simple and honest. When the girl is only 19, as in the case of Poppy, it's worse. It's more delicate. It's more difficult. The consequences are going to be disproportionate to the actions, the kind of fragility, and just, the kind of emotional backlash you have to expect as the older party if everything doesn't work out perfectly, and frankly, even if everything does work out perfectly. If the person is 19, 18, Onision was here just making excuses for 17.
And was 17 and a half when I met them. And then the other person was 17 and a half when I was 25.
It's worse. Let's just leave it at that. You have to make the decision to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And sometimes you have to look at the person in the particular scenario and decide there's no way to do the right thing here, so I just have to walk away entirely. Like, no matter how good you are, there's no way you can make this relationship work, with the 19-year-old where you're mixing business with pleasure and you're both her manager and her songwriter and her boyfriend and her lover. Like, sometimes there is no right thing to do except leaving, except not getting involved in the first place, except recognizing that even if you did everything right, this would be wrong. It would turn out badly, and you'd be left incapable of taking responsibility for the consequences.